You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Hello, welcome to Japanese. I'm your host Akiko Tema, a food writer and director of the New York Japanese Culinary Academy, which promotes a deep understanding of Japanese cuisine in America. We are broadcast live from Brooklyn, New York. This show is all about Japanese food and food culture. We see sushi at every day in the supermarket, but what is beyond sushi? We hear dashi ramen izakaya. What exactly are they? Japanese food is still a mystery for many people, and I try to demystify this program with my cool guests. My guest today is Emily Yuen, who is the executive chef at Lingo, a unique Japanese-American restaurant in Brooklyn, New York. Emily has an impressive culinary background. She worked at the top French restaurants in the world, including Le Gavroche in London, Bistro in Singapore, and Boulud Sud in New York. She also studied Japanese cuisine at the legendary Shojin restaurant Kajitsu and served as executive chef at Bessou in New York. At Lingo, with her global knowledge and experience, Emily offers original dishes such as Hokkaido-style braised beef curry pie and Donabe hotpot with wild mushroom and koji butter. So today we'll discuss how Emily's culinary focus shifted from French to Japanese, the essence of Japanese cuisine that she wants to share with her guests, how she naturally merges French techniques and Japanese flavors, the importance of Japanese home cooking in her menu development, and much, much more. But before we start, Japanese is available on the Heritage Radio Network website, as well as on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify as a podcast. So please go to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, whichever you listen to, and subscribe to Japanese. And please write a review. We really appreciate your feedback. Now, let's start a conversation with Emily Yuen. Hello, Emily. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so this is exciting. I've known you for a while, and it's amazing how you've been solidifying your footsteps, and we'll discover all about this now. So first of all, to get to know you, where are you from, and what did you eat when you grew up?
So I'm from Vancouver, Canada. And Vancouver, Canada, if you don't know where it is, it's like right by the ocean. So, I grew up eating a lot of diverse Asian food. It is also like a hub for a lot of people coming in from Asia, immigrating. So I grew up eating like sushi, Chinese food, a lot of seafood. My family really enjoyed crabbing and fishing for prawns. I just have a lot of fond memories catching seafood and eating it with my family during the same day.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Wow. So, but how did you get into cooking from eating side to actually making food?
I think it's a lot of cooks or chefs stories. I was never really good at anything in school. So I kind of fell into cooking because, I was kind of an outsider. So I was kind of looking for a place to belong. And then I really enjoyed the creativity and the energy of a kitchen. So when I started working in kitchens, I really realized that this is kind of where I belong and what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I was very lucky. I found it pretty young.
Wow. So did you go to culinary school or you just jumped into actual practical kitchen experiences?
I did go to culinary school. So I went to a small culinary school in Vancouver. And then I really worked with my hands for the first time, cutting fish and exploring different ingredients. So that was really where I realized.
Wow. Okay. So, and as I said earlier, you worked at the top French restaurants in the world, including Le Gavroche in London and Bistro in Singapore and Boulud Sud in New York. All are amazing places. So, what did you learn at these top French kitchens in Europe, Asia, and the US?
So I feel like these were really formative years of my life. So all my 20s, I traveled and worked in all these different types of restaurants in the world. I feel like I learned a lot of discipline, precision, and adaptability, because I feel like adaptability, every continent I moved, it was like moving into a new kitchen culture and moving into a new culture as well with people, especially moving to Singapore was really different for me from an American culture or North American culture. So it was really a lot of adaptability. It was either for me, it was a lot of fight or flight mode, I would say, because you either adapt or you have to leave your job and leave the country.
Well, tell us more about that. It's like culture shock, especially like you mentioned in Singapore. What was it about?
in general, there's not a lot of women in the kitchen. So in Singapore, it was just like really their culture. I mean, it was a French restaurant, but working with a lot of Singaporean people, or like, especially in Singapore, it was like a lot of different people coming in from Asia, Philippines, working all together. So we really had to find a lot of common ground and our commonalities, and kind of learning what made us work as a cohesive kitchen team, especially when I became sous chef for Daniel Boulud. It was a big learning curve of how to lead and how to lead differently. Because I think I grew up in kitchen cultures where it's a lot of like yelling and a lot of like harsh discipline. But when I became sous chef, I kind of applied the same way, I would say, that I learned, and it didn't really work because no one really respected me just because I was yelling at them.
Interesting. Yes. Yes. I mean, first of all, I think Asia is diverse, like Japanese people's very small island mindset versus even Korea.
Hmm.
They are,
Hmm.
Korea is connected to China, and all those is very more challenging continental
Right,
mindset. It's very
right.
different, for example. And I'm sure Singapore, it's like a crossroads of every like surrounding countries, and must
Yeah,
be really
exactly.
hard. Wow.
Yeah, they also, I think in London as well, was maybe even harder because I was maybe one of the only Asian people in my kitchen.
Mm.
So yeah, it was mostly like French or Italian, one American. So I
Mm.
really had to like fight my way through.
Right. Well, that's like a boot camp, I think, in a good way,
A
because
little bit.
right. And I was in London earlier last year, and I really was surprised. I used to live in London. But back then, I went to actually Gavroche, and
Yeah.
that was very authentic British and French
Yes.
restaurant. So I would imagine it's so much changed now since you were there, right?
Yeah.
So right. So yeah, I think you're living the whole trends and transitions of this whole culinary world worldwide
Hmm.
as well. So yeah, I
Yeah.
respect. And as a woman, I never thought you as a female chef, but you are a very talented chef. So I think the world is seeing female chefs more differently, and I really admire what you do. So next question, because I can't stop
Hmm.
talking about this. So you also worked at the Kajitsu in New York, which is now closed, but had a Michelin star and was known for its outstanding plant-based Japanese Shojin dishes.
Hmm.
So why did you decide to work in Japanese kitchen, and what did you learn at the Kajitsu?
Well, at that time, I was waiting for Bessou to open. So I wanted to work somewhere really different and something more traditional. So I staged there for about 3 months. So if you don't know what staging is, it's just like working for free at any restaurant to kind of learn. So from there, I feel like it kind of brought me back to a little bit more traditional, like similar culture to Le Gavroche, where it was like two Michelin star French, and it was really about like back to like discipline, ingredients, and just like, yeah, different like culture. Also, like Japanese food is so deeply intentional.
Mm,
So yeah, I feel like Japanese food is like really deeply intentional. So I really learned like that as well at Kajitsu mostly.
I think I have to expand on that meaning of intentional. That
Hmm.
really is a keyword, right? How do you
Right.
define intentional?
Intentional. I feel like everything, I would say, has a purpose for, especially for Japanese cuisine. Like for, on a plate, you have to have different colors on it, not just to eat with your eyes first. So I really learned that as well for like Japanese food. You don't just eat with your eyes, but each item on the plate has a nutritional value as well.
Mm,
Carrot means like something else, and like eating a green vegetable means something else. So that I really learned like how intentional Japanese food is, or like eating noodles at the end. It's the same way as eating like salad at the end of a French meal as well. It
mm,
kind of like palate cleanses. So it's they're both very like deeply intentional types of cuisine, I would
right.
say.
Yeah, like it makes sense, right? And the gomi
Hmm.
bushoko for Japanese 5 days, 5 colors, and
Hmm.
5 methods of cooking. To by having these, naturally you have a very nourishing, balanced and delicious food on your
Exactly.
plate. Right. Yeah. And also I think less is more. That's kind of the
Yeah.
French is the cuisine of addition and Japanese is subtraction. So I really
Yeah.
think your word intentional. I have to use that from now.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then you, before you became the executive chef at the Lingo, you served as the executive chef at the Bessou in New
Mhm.
York for 5 years. And Bessou's owner, Michael Kyogoku, joined us in
Mhm.
episode 78 and discussed her love and passion for sharing Japanese home cooking with New Yorkers and beyond. So I was really impressed by how the whole Bessou, it's a restaurant, but it's beyond just a restaurant. So could you tell
Mhm.
us the concept of Bessou and the theme of the menu and what you learned from experience at Bessou?
Yeah, so Bessou is a Japanese American comfort food restaurant. A lot of the food we um, cooked was from northern Japan, which is where the owner's mother was from. So the restaurant was like homage to her mother. And then we did a lot of Japanese food where it wasn't just like, what you normally, Americans normally think is sushi or izakaya or like ramen. So it was really an exploration of a different side of Japanese food.
Mm,
So for me, it was like a lot of learning about like all these different types of dishes that you don't normally see. But also for me, it was learning how to be an executive chef because that was my first time being executive chef, leading a kitchen. I was always under like, somebody else. So for me, just also learning how to create food for the first time. That was my style. That was like me. So
mm,
I feel like what's my creative process, what inspires me, like how I apply that and how I put it all onto a plate.
mm. Right. I think the Michael really wanted to feature, like you said, go beyond just the sushi and ramen. And
Hmm.
I think you really appreciate. The other day I spoke to you. You said you really like the home cooking. That's how profound it is, and
Hmm.
how much you learned from it. So can you elaborate on the value of home cooking for you?
Home cooking, I feel like, I mean, I don't it wasn't in my home, so it's really like I learning from like what like talking to other like Japanese people what they cooked, a lot of cookbook reading as well. So when I'm trying to learn about like Japanese home cooking, I read a lot of like cookbooks and look for Japanese cookbooks that are not your typical cookbooks that you read. So there is a lot more like fermentation, a lot of different other like Japanese, I would say home cooking that I apply to Lingo today. Like curry, I've really transformed a comfort food like curry into something else that is more of my and it has become our signature dish at Lingo.
Mm, right. Well, we'll talk about your experience. I mean, what you do at Lingo in a moment. But I found some signature dishes that you served at Bissau. I took notes. I keep notes those news. So I found some signature dishes that you served at Bissau, and charred eggplant caponata with tamamiso, lotus root chips, and mint, and caponata. And it's kind of more Western take and also mint that you take. And I was impressed very much. And boiled in sweet braised short rib with daikon radish, rainbow carrots, and chickpeas. And this is really classic Japanese style braised short rib. But I think the chickpeas and some crunchiness, some other elements maybe up these or some globalize the dish. So I really liked what you did at the Bessel.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll dive into Emily's original menu at Lingo, which represents her unique culinary background. So please stay with us.
Today's program is brought to you by Korin, a supplier of Japanese chef knives and restaurant supplies. Korin is proud of their Japanese culture and traditions, but they want you to know that their products are not just for Japanese restaurants. Their knives and tableware bring out the best qualities of food from every culture and fit into every restaurant from French to Pan-Asian to American. And that is why they're located in New York City, where people from every country in the world come to eat. Korin's Tribeca showroom is home to the most extensive collection of Japanese chef knives in the world, including Japan. Stop by to view their exquisitely designed tableware and the rarest natural sharpening stones. They have a whole range of knife services from repair and rust removal to reshaping and realigning. Korin is dedicated to this ideal, bringing the highest quality Japanese design to your table so you can experience the unparalleled quality of Japanese craftsmanship in your home or restaurant. For more information, visit Korin.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Japan Eats on HRN Heritage Radio Network. York. I'm your host, Takikatema. My guest today is Emily Yuen, who is the executive chef at Lingo, a unique Japanese-American restaurant in Brooklyn, New York. So, after gaining such diverse experiences, you chose to keep cooking Japanese influenced dishes, and now you are the executive chef at Lingo, which opened in 2023. So, what is the charm of Japanese cuisine to you personally at this point?
For me, I really love the seasonality. I would say like the precise techniques that I can really relate to. And I feel like there's a lot of similarities to what I used to cook of like layering of flavors. And then like both cuisines for me emphasize like umami, balance, and like respecting ingredients. So I feel like I'm on this like I don't know. I'm so in love with like Japanese cuisine that it's just like it's so natural to me now. That like
Mm.
all the repertoire of like ingredients are like in my head, and the flavors just like something clicked and it really like made sense for me. So I just like I'm like on this journey of like continuing to explore Japanese, and I think it's a never ending journey, and that's why I love like cooking so much, because I just don't think you can ever stop learning about Japanese cuisine and any other cuisine. So I'm just on this like exploration journey, and I really think that I will probably cook Japanese food for the rest of my life.
I would imagine so. Yeah. I think you just expanded the meaning of intentionality that we
Yeah.
discussed earlier. Yeah, then the seasonality is a big part of it. And you have to be really aware of what day of the week, like in Japan, in Kyoto Kaiseki cuisine, today's the day that vegetable comes out, that fish comes out in the market. So that kind of a mindset, I think it's really healthy, because our body requires seasonal food naturally, right? As a creature on Earth. So, yeah, it's really cool that you kind of representing in New York what you can do to follow the season, even in the big city. So,
Mhm.
yeah, what is the concept of Lingo? What's the theme?
So the concept of Lingo is Japanese contemporary restaurant. So it kind of reflects a lot of my experiences of where I used to live and who I used to work for. So I'm kind of applying Japanese flavors and mixing some techniques of like French and Japanese into the dishes that I cook. So a lot of it is like, familiar but innovative, I would say. So
Mm,
yeah, so like maybe I hope that everyone who like or some is a Japanese person who comes to Lingo eats something that is familiar to them, but kind of done in a different way, or like an explosion of flavors that they've never really had.
mm,
Because as a non-Japanese person, I don't have these. I didn't grow up eating it, so I think like I don't have like these. I don't know, fixed ideas of what Japanese food is.
that's the biggest strength, right? You can have,
Right.
because there's no any preconception or anything.
Exactly.
So, right. So maybe you can tell us, give me some examples of the dishes that represent your style of cooking at Lingo, so the listeners can really imagine. Wow, that's Emily's.
Yeah, so I would say one of our few of our signature dishes would be our like ebi bisque chawanmushi. So like for me, eating chawanmushi, it doesn't have a lot of flavor. So I think like I wanted to kind of like amp up the flavor of the chawanmushi. So instead of a traditional like dashi stock, I make like a prawn head stock that has like miso and tomato paste and cooked out flavors that I and also like I made into like a dashi that I apply to um and that use as a base for the chawanmushi, and then we have like a scallop and prawn tartare on top. So it's raw, and then which I think you normally don't see in a chawanmushi as well. So I when you eat the chawanmushi, there's like different like textures and hot and cold temperatures that will be a play on that.
Interesting. Yeah, I have to comment on that, because the chawanmushi to me is clean, light, and to start something really exciting. But
Mhm.
your chawanmushi has a presence. Like, this is one of my main presence on the
Yeah.
menu. So yeah, I really like that. The beautiful bisque form, orange bisque form,
Mhm.
and also like visually amazing. But also, I think it's a concentration of the flavor that starts your whole
Mhm.
bowl chawanmushi, and then everything goes more kind of, yeah, that's a French idea of fun and concentration of impact of the flavor in such a supposed to be traditionally light dish. I was blown away.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So what else?
Our signature dish is our Lingo beef pie. So when I used to live in London and Australia, I didn't have a lot of money. So I ate a lot of pies, which is kind of like a very fast meal. And then that combines with, Japanese curry, which is a comfort food. And I kind of combine both of that together into like a pie with the bone marrow on top. So as the pie cooks, the bone marrow melts into the curry and kind of flavors the curry a little bit more as well.
Right. Yeah. Just your dishes, like other things like wild mushroom and chestnut donabe rice. I
Oh, yeah.
loved it. Yeah. And then, for example, usually, you serve in donabe, the tetsunabe, like the iron, cast iron, in really hot. And then that hominess was so carefully, you really think about the dish for the diners to enjoy the maximum. For example, the really crispy charred part of the rice is at the top, not in the bottom. You have to scrape down. It's just the best part to me is that crispy part, and you serve it on top. That was a very omotenashi hospitality mindset, even like a donabe dish, and it's like hot pot. So yeah, but in overall, I really thought that Lingo's dishes that you cook at Lingo, they're pretty sophisticated and look very it looks like French fine dining, but then when you put it in mouth, it's very home cooking, like approachable and comforting. So that's kind of like surprising, kind of oxymoron, like what could they come together, how do they do that? So I think that's your uniqueness, and the result of all those hard work you accumulated, and there you go. You are doing amazing job at the
Thank you
Lingo.
so much.
So Lingo is located in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. So which is one of the most up and coming areas in New York. So who comes to Lingo?
I would say a lot of neighborhood families come to Lingo. It really depends. So I would say for brunch, there's a lot of neighborhood families, but for dinner, I think people from all over kind of come. So like people from Manhattan who's maybe heard about us in an article that have traveled all this way, which makes us so grateful for them traveling because I think Greenpoint is not easy to get to sometimes, especially last year in the summer where the train closed down. So but people come by on the ferry or they drive. And so I think people from all over. I think last week I talked to someone who came all the way from like Long Island, which I was so grateful for.
Right. Well, every week I go to, every time I have like I had a haircut there, and they go those frequent trips I had every
Yeah.
couple of weeks, and every time I see how quickly it's
Hmm.
developing. And it used to be like it didn't know subway, but it's like J train is getting better, and
Right.
it's definitely a destination. And
Yeah, for
new
sure.
shops like Cafe Pana, the gelato shop,
Yeah.
just really attracting new people and all those things happening. So I think from this summer, especially, I think,
Hmm.
yeah, be prepared. Kind of
Yeah,
traffic.
I totally agree. I think like I think somebody called us like the next little Japan because like there's a lot of like Japanese businesses opening in the area as well. So
Right. Yeah, and it's not just old style like East Village or classic, izakaya types, but it's really sophisticated and dashi okume to soba shop to something
mhm.
like really the next generation Japanese section that was
Yeah.
born. So I always look forward to going visiting that area. Right. So I had a good mindset to capture what's going to happen in the future. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess we can comfortably say that Japanese food has become part of American food culture now. So, how do you predict the future of Japanese food in America, and what is the role of talented and passionate non-Japanese chefs like yourself?
I think for non-Japanese chefs like myself, our role is like kind of to like honor and respect the traditions, but also in a different, innovative way because I feel like a lot of non-Japanese chefs are discovering certain ingredients like yuzu kosho. I would say a lot of like non-Japanese chefs are using, but I think they have the ability to merge cultural influences, pairing from what they know, like what I have done, to with Japanese ingredients. And I think that's that's a great thing about Japanese food, non-Japanese chefs cooking Japanese food. There is no like preconception, and they can explore making more innovative cuisine with Japanese ingredients, and especially in New York. I mean, like New York is like a melting pot, and especially like New Yorkers, they're open to this type of food, and anything that the chefs want to cook.
Interesting. I mean, you probably are not even aware how naturally you bring in the non-traditional items. Like, like your tobacco Scotch egg, for example, you didn't mention, but this is really amazing signature dish. That's deboned chicken wing and cashew matcha and tsume glaze. It's a very interesting natural combination of what's good. It's, the quail meat, which sometimes is too hard to eat, but they made it really beautifully merged into one easy to eat piece, but tons of Japanese flavors in it. So I think that's probably the classic literature in Japanese chefs probably won't be able to come up with this kind of dish, and makes sense. Your dish is definitely Japanese too. So it's exciting to see how chefs are building new foundation of Japanese food in a new region called America. So Japanese cuisine to me is always regional cuisine with locals. So what are your plans and dreams?
On a professional level, I think I just got nominated as a James Beard Best Chef of New York State. So that's definitely one of my dreams come true already.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you so much. But yeah, I would like to, keep pushing the boundaries of what Japanese cuisine is and kind of redefine Japanese cuisine of what it is to me and to other non-Japanese chefs as well. On a personal level, I think I want to strive to, I mean, there is no such thing as balance, but strive to balance my career and also my family. Especially having a daughter is like so important for me to continue my career as executive chef, to kind of like show her that I follow my dreams, and also to show the next level, the next generation of female and male cooks that they can do both. Because I think I didn't have any role models growing up or see that in the kitchens that I worked in.
Right. It's called the pioneer. But, I'm curious, you said you had a very difficult, initial years in training abroad. So how did you get over those challenges? Every day you have to get up, go to work, and you have the same pressure, stressful environment, but you have to keep going, right? How did you do that?
I think the key for me was really staying mentally strong, knowing what my goals were. And I was never one to party. So I had really strong ambitions and goals to achieve my dreams. So really just staying mentally strong. I am self-proclaimed never did drugs, or I don't drink alcohol. So for me, just really staying mentally strong and knowing what my goals are, that made me achieve them.
Focus.
Yeah, focus.
Okay. So where can we find your updates online and on social media?
For updates, I would say our Instagram has a lot of updates of what we're doing and new dishes. Just Instagram on Lingo BK. Okay.
Great. And the website Lingo BK, the full menu descriptions. I get hungry. So well, congratulations again. I've seen you for over 10 years now by now, I think. And it's amazing how solidly you've been making progress. And, as a chef, as a woman, as a mother, I think everybody's proud of you. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right. So thanks again for joining us today, Millie. So listeners, if you have any questions or comments about the show or suggestions for short topics or guests, please contact us at japaneats@heritageradionetwork.org or kikotema.com. Japaneats' weekly program is always available at heritageradionetwork.org, as well as on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify as a podcast. Our engineer today is Gavroche, and thanks for listening. I will see you next week.